Welcome to the lesson. Today I'm going to discuss about the membrane transport, how a cell interacts with its outer environment. Let's imagine two situations where you have one family here and second family here. Now, if you are standing alone like this in the environment, you don't feel safe. So what you can do, you can build a room or walls around you. Now you have become safer, right? But what will happen? The question arises, how will you take your need requirements from outside? How will you throw your waste outside if you are in the wall? So this becomes difficult. Now, if you construct walls like this and you have door, you have windows in it, so that you can very peacefully, very happily control what goes in and what comes out, right? So this is how we solve our problems, right? So this is how we become happy. But what about the cells? How the cells will do that? So let's discuss about the mechanism of transport in the cells. The first thing is why this membrane transport or the transport is required. So let's imagine a cell. So this is a three-dimensional structure of the cell. As you can see, you have this nucleus over here, and these are endoplasmic reticulum, mitochondria, Golgi bodies. So you have all the cell organelles here which have their particular functions. Some generates proteins, some synthesizes your hormones, right? Some synthesizes certain products which are required for the cell and which are required for the another cell as well. So they have to be sent outside the cell. Then waste materials will be generated, that will also be thrown outside. So how it is done? So why it is required? Why the transport is required? So we can say to maintain the homeostasis, to maintain the cell in a proper harmony, all the functions must be done properly. So homeostasis means self-control. The self-control or all the mechanisms must be done with the proper way to send the signals to another cells with the help of certain hormones, chemicals, to absorb the nutrients from outside. So nutrients will be there and they have to be absorbed inside the cell. And apart from that, whatever waste material that gets generated, what about that? If the cell is not able to discard that waste material, what will happen? The cell will be full of garbage, and that is how the cell will not be able to maintain its homeostasis, will not be able to maintain its living. So these waste materials are required to be thrown outside the cell. So the two important things, that nutrients will come in and waste will go out. So these are the main requirements for the transport. So we can say that this transport is basically an orchestra of the cell to for a cell to remain in a state of harmony, right? So now what are the different ways of the transport? The first one is passive transport. Whenever we talk about passive transport, that means the materials will be taken in, the materials will be thrown outside the cell, but it will not require any energy. So we can say that energy is not required, and that is why we are saying it's a passive transport. So passive transport has different modes. As you can see over here, the passive transport has diffusion, simple diffusion through the membrane, osmosis through the membrane, and the third one is facilitated diffusion. Sometimes what happens, this diffusion and osmosis, these can be done under the you can say the gradient, the pressure gradient or the concentration gradient or the concentration gradient, right? So what happens basically, if water is more in quantity outside and the cell requires water, water is less over here, so water will travel from higher concentration to the lower concentration, or if we have sodium ions outside, isn't it? And if the cell has less amount of sodium ions, so what will happen? It will travel from higher concentration to the lower concentration. Clear? So this we call it as diffusion. Osmosis is this one. If water is more outside, so water is in terms of, or osmosis is in terms of solvent. So always the movement will be from higher concentration to the lower concentration. If we talk about diffusion, we will talk about the solute, where what will happen, for example, different ions are there, sodium ions, potassium ions, or certain compounds which are smaller in size and easier to move or may diffuse from the cell. So they will get diffused through this plasma membrane from higher concentration to the lower concentration. While if we talk about the osmosis, so you must have heard about the osmotic pressure. So as you can see, if water molecules are more, so since this is about the solvent, so this will be also traveling from higher concentrations to the lower concentration. Perhaps there are few compounds which basically do not get diffused by themselves because of their larger size or their chemical structure. So they require certain support system. For example, if you have to go somewhere, for example, you are not grown up, you don't drive, so and if you have to go somewhere, you have to go to the school, so someone from your family drops you to the school, so that becomes a carrier, because they are not going to school, you are going to school, but they are taking you from the home and dropping you to the school, so they become the carrier. So similarly, in facilitated diffusion, we have certain proteins. First one is the carrier protein and second one is the channel protein. So these proteins basically help them in crossing this barrier or crossing this plasma membrane and entering inside the cell. So these are the passive transport: diffusion, osmosis, and facilitated diffusion, right? Now we come to the active transport. As its name indicates, active means it needs energy. It requires energy, and we are aware that energy in the form of ATPs, adenosine triphosphate, these are nothing but the currency of energy for the cells, and they basically requires in order to make this transport easier. So active transport will always require certain amount of energy in the form of ATP. Apart from that, endocytosis and exocytosis. So these are all four modes of transport through the cell. So as you can see, passive transport, active transport, endocytosis, and exocytosis. What is endocytosis and exocytosis? Suppose you have this membrane and there are certain food particles or any chemical that has to go inside. So this will bulge out, this plasma membrane will break from here, it will bulge out and these materials will be taken in. Apart from that, if exocytosis is there, so if suppose these are the waste materials over here, so now this plasma membrane will enter from here and this will be thrown outside. So endo means in, taking in, and exo means throwing out, so making an exit from the cell. So their names clearly indicate whatever is been happening there. So if we understand the meaning of these terms, our studies become very easy and very clear to us, right, and easy to memorize. So I'll just show you this thing here. I'll just rub this off and I'll show you that yeah, there are few things that I have quoted over here to show you that which are the compounds which are easily make an entry inside the cell and which can go outside. So as you can see, this is the plasma membrane. And plasma membrane, we have studied this in the cell organelles, that plasma membrane is a bilipid layer, right? So lipid bilayer, it has two layers. This is one and two layer where we have head and tail, head and tail. So this is how the membranous structure will be formed, head and tail, head and tail. So this becomes a phospholipid bilayer through which, see, the small hydrophobic molecules, for example, oxygen, carbon dioxide, nitrogen, they can easily enter inside. Small uncharged polar molecules, for example, water, glycerol, ethanol, they can also enter inside easily. They can cross through this barrier, but the larger uncharged polar molecules and certain ions, they basically cannot enter directly into the cell, so they require certain support. So maybe they will be done through either the facilitated diffusion or the active transport that we will study in detail in the next lesson. Thank you.